Since I was a kid, I've known that Yahweh doesn't exist, at least not in the way everyone sees him. And whole my life I do have issues with pantheons, egregores, as they don't feel complete or fulfilling to me. Is there something wrong with me? Why can't I find my own God? I left the church, debaptized myself, but nothing happened, like this egregore did not see me from the beginning. It's quite possible that it never did. Or perhaps your agreement with the Christian egregore, or with the specific egregore of your church, doesn't require you to be strongly dependent on it. This does happen sometimes, but not often. As for the first part of your question, if you're not connected by blood or culture to the religion of Judaism, and if you're not deeply immersed in some Anglican tradition, based on the cult of Yahweh, then it's not surprising that he might seem incomplete to you. After all, you probably don't fully perceive him as a god. Another thing is that you could project this feeling onto other systems and pantheons. And this feeling of unfulfillment could be subjective, but I can't say that with certainty. When it comes to finding your own God, this is often the purpose of existence for someone who has suddenly realized that magic is an essential part of their life. Many people around you and in the world don't feel the same way. In fact, they never even think about it, so they naturally never face the question of finding their own God. But if you feel that life without magic is meaningless, if nothing else matters or interests you, then you will inevitably come to the conclusion that there must be a connection to something greater. And even if it doesn't change you or teach you anything, it will provide direction for your search. This quest, which begins at that point, is always accompanied by a certain feeling. You can't say with certainty that you feel complete unity. You'll always sense that something is missing. But why is that? Because that's the point of the game, the quest begins. You have to gather all the artifacts, all the components, including the knowledge needed to form what in religion is called a pantheon. It's entirely possible that your pantheon will be unique and specific. And within any given pantheon, you may feel more drawn to some gods than to others. That's perfectly normal. Because in occult terms, each of us is created as a projection of a particular god. The relationships between your God and other gods also leave an imprint on you. You might feel a deeper, more complete bond with one God, while your connection to others may feel less fulfilling, because that's how it was for your God too. For instance, Loki loves Odin but doesn't like the Vanir. If Loki is your God, you'll likely share similar feelings. If you feel closer to the Jotuns, you might dislike the Aesir but feel a connection to the Vanir. That's completely normal, it's all described in the myths. I've used the Scandinavian pantheon as an example here, but the same could be said for any other pantheon. For example, if you feel a connection to the Olympian gods, anything related to the Titans, giants, or primordial gods might not appeal to you. You might not reject them outright, but you probably wouldn't trust them as much as you trust the Olympians. It all depends on the mythological context. To understand why this happens, just delve into the myths. Read the story of your god and explore the relationships they had with other members of the pantheon. And you'll see how this projection manifests in your life. Your feeling of unfulfillment comes from the fact that you don't accept every god in the pantheon as your own. And that's natural. They didn't create you, so they aren't your gods. They might be your relatives, your friends, or even your rivals. It all depends on the mythological background. And when you realize this, the feeling of emptiness or incompleteness fades away immediately, as the mythological background begins to unfold in your consciousness. The mythological narrative is always a process. Once that process begins, the emptiness disappears, because the process itself cannot be empty. It quickly becomes filled with stories, events, situations, and legends. In your life, these stories unfold every day, as if you were living out a myth of your God. Perhaps a little differently than your God Creator did. With a unique emphasis that your progenitor didn't capture in their working notes or reflect in the legends and myths. In this way, your shared experience grows through a new variation, one created by you. And this is the essence of your existence in this reality and your connection to your God. At the same time, your twin, alter ego, or soul sibling, another projection of your God in a different reality, is also living out the same myths, but with a different emphasis and outcome. And because you share a connection with your God Creator, all of you are enriched, not just by one element or variation, but by two, one created by you and the other by your colleague, your counterpart in another reality. This is known as shared experience, the combined efficiency of certain algorithms designed to achieve specific results. Gods create these algorithms, while people, as projections of their gods, serve as their developers and testers. I really hope, colleagues, that I've made myself clear.